Okay, and we are live. I'm going to go ahead and we do have. Oh, here's Keandra. Good. I'm going to wait just 2 seconds for her to actually get in the room.
Yeah.
Let me show you all my smiling face. Yay.
Yeah, I don't have a camera on my computer, so I figured I'll just do it by phone. Because anyway, without the camera on the computer, I would only be kind of on the phone.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, it's just old school teleconferencing.
Yeah. And then my little iPad, for some reason, when I try to put, the Zoom things, even with my mom, it tells me it's not compatible. So.
Oh.
Even though that one has the camera, but it's not compatible, to conference in on Zoom.
Yeah.
So like today, all afternoon, we played our Mexican bingo. People from Texas, her granddaughters from Texas, her granddaughters, wherever they were, and us, we were playing bingo for Mother's Day with her all afternoon.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah.
Hey, Laura. Unmute yourself. There you are. We're not going to have Conrad tonight. If you could, the only thing you really need to keep track of is vote counts.
Okay.
Please, thank you. Hey, Keandra.
Hello.
Good to see you. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order at 7:08 p.m. Write that down. Thank you all for coming. Main purpose, we do have a little housekeeping to do, but main purpose of the meeting tonight is to mostly discuss. I don't know that we'll come to any resounding decisions, and we'll see. But discuss what are we looking at for the next 4-6 weeks, or even through the summer. So I thought it was important that we have that conversation and have everybody involved. So that's why Ronnie and I decided that we should go ahead and schedule this meeting. So I will go ahead and call the roll. Ronnie Reese.
Present.
Keandra Kyler Dodds.
Present.
Ara Morrison.
Present.
Lauren Simmers. Not. Daniel Singer. Not. Kwazi Huda. Not. Philip Armstrong. Not yet. I know he sent me an email earlier. Alex Frazier.
Present.
Uber Santa Cruz.
Present.
David Horan.
Present.
I still butchered that, didn't I? And I am present. Rachel Rose Lucky. A couple of rules of the road. It's best if you keep yourself mute until you go to speak. Just in case there's any background noise, that helps us keep things quiet. Also, there are a couple of folks on the phone. In other words, they cannot see you. They cannot see the participants list. So every time you go to speak, I know it's a pain in the butt, but please, when you start to speak, even if it's just your first name, identify yourself so that people know who's speaking. For those who are calling in, if you want to raise your hand to be recognized, On your keypad, you type *9, and then I see David just put his hand up. I don't know if he's testing it or not. Put his hand back down. I believe it's *86 to unmute yourself. I don't know if anybody's on a computer that could just look that up right quick. How do you mute and unmute yourself when you're calling in? My memory says *86. And that's about it for the rules of the road. We'll see how this goes. Small crowd today. We currently have 9 participants in the room. Okay. Item number 3, public comment on non-agenda items. 2 minutes per person, total of 10 minutes. Is there any member of the public that would like to give comment on non-agenda items?
I'm not sure if maybe Carmen Medina. I'm not sure if maybe this is where I should mention, because I didn't see anything on the agenda or be part of item D regarding brainstorming on the banners. 2 of the things that I want to speak on are banners for outreach purpose, and also right now for emergency in our community, Meals on Wheels. They have tried during Jason's absence to see if they would be able to put in an MPG. And this is way before the coronavirus incident, but now more so, they need the help. So I'm not sure if I should be commenting on public comment on those 2 items, or wait until new business D.
No, it's fine. Your public comment is whatever you would like to comment on. The banners, the agenda item D is fairly specific for COVID-19, but I don't know that anybody would have an objection if we wanted to talk about that as part of outreach efforts and get that back up and running.
Okay, so then in public comment, I just want to make the request for outreach purpose, how effective the banners were, that, if any board members could get involved in seeing if that could, be done again.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then under D, I'll rephrase myself regarding Meals on Wheels, because that is kind of in the sense of the COVID-19 public health emergency.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you. Anybody else from the public like to speak on non-agenda items? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Discussion and possible action on the following motions is item number 4, old business, none. New business, approve MER for December 2019. If we can get that approved, that will bring us current. All previous all the other outstanding MERs have been submitted, and just waiting to hear. I'll follow up with City Clerk's office, our funding rep, tomorrow to see the status of the admonishment and see if that's been lifted. I haven't gotten a letter yet. Philip's on his way in. But if we can go ahead and if we can get this MER for December approved, that would bring us even to the board up to I think we approved March. That's the last meeting, so we'll be current. Yay! So I would entertain a motion to approve MER for December 2019.
Excuse me, excuse me.
Yes, Philip.
I was not informed of what time this meeting was started. I was thinking that it was starting at 7:30. There have been a number of messages. There was supposed to be a meeting yesterday. It's been very confusing, and I would like to get brought up to speed on where we are.
Okay. Right now we are on, we had call to order, roll call. Carmen Medina gave public comment and spoke about the banners as well as Meals on Wheels. And we are now in item number 4. There was no new business. So we are currently on item 4B, approval of MER for December 2019. I apologize if there was any confusion.
Okay, so I noticed a transcription error on the MER, which I emailed you, but I guess you haven't gotten my email.
What is the transcription error?
Okay, so on page 1 of the MER, which I'm assuming is the one that you sent out with the agenda, it says on page 1, it says December 17th, Domino's Pizza, $122.36. But the receipt on page 15 says $112.36.
That's not a transcription error. The difference is a tip.
Right, but is there a receipt for the tip?
No, there is an acknowledgement to the funding clerk as to an explanation for the discrepancy submitted by which I submitted to the funding clerk upon their request.
And is that part of the documentation of the MER?
That is not part of the documentation of the MER and is not required by the city.
Okay, but I mean, would it be possible to include that?
I can speak on that.
Go ahead, Ronnie.
When I was treasurer, that's exactly what I did. Instead of paying a tip every time they came, I asked them to include that in the invoice, and there was no problem there.
Okay, okay, so maybe that's something we could consider doing in the future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I'm still entertaining a motion to approve December 2019 MER.
I move that we approve the MER for December.
Okay, just so everybody knows, that was Laura Morrison. Do I hear a second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay, got Ronnie Reese.
Ronnie will second.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so public comment on the motion on the floor. Seeing none. Any further board discussion on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, I will call the roll. This is a financial matter. I think one person here does not have their financials in order. David, do you have all the trainings in?
As far as I know, I've completed all of them.
Okay. Let me find my agenda. Here it is. Okay. Ronnie Reese.
Ronnie Reese, yes.
Keandra Kyler Dodds.
Sorry, I was muted. Yes.
Laura Morrison.
Yes.
Let's see. Philip Armstrong.
Yes.
Alex Frazier.
Yes.
Uber Santa Cruz.
Yes.
David Horan.
Yeah.
And I vote in the affirmative. That's what's the count, Laura?
8 800.
Okay, thank you very much. The motion passes. Item 4C, authorize RVNC president to communicate a letter of thank you to Councilman Rue for his valiant efforts at the LA City Council meeting of May 6, 2020 in support of NC's ability to roll over all unexpended funds into fiscal year 2021. On Wednesday, City Council, Councilman Krikorian introduced a motion to amend. His original motion to amend was to actually strike in its entirety the rollover language from that motion. There were three parts to that motion. That didn't go very far. He tried to do it as a friendly motion. Bonin didn't accept it. So then he came back and said that as a friendly motion that rollovers of encumbered funds, your funds had to be encumbered for them to be rolled over. So Bonin accepted that as a friendly motion, a friendly amendment. However, David Rue, who was a co-author of that motion, strongly objected, and he went to bat for us and argued as strongly as he possibly could the necessity for just roll this over. It's not a lot of money. We're not going to balance the budget on the backs of neighborhood councils. So in light of that, I really think that he should hear from neighborhood councils for his support. So would anybody like to move that?
I'll move it since I saw the council meeting, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Thank you, Ronnie. I see your hand up, David. Give me just a second. Do I have a second for that? Keandra?
Alex Frazier, I'll second it.
I saw Keandra. She seconded it. Okay, so now, is there any public comment on the motion on the floor?
Rachel?
Yes, David.
Yes, this is David Rockello. You did a great job at the meeting, and I'm really proud of you for getting the full 5 minutes because you put in a CIS. And I feel that, David Rue, great that he, was batting a little bit for us. But what it all comes down to is Krikorian needs to go. We need to ask that he get thrown out. We need a recall on Krikorian. Because in the end, they all voted the same way for the amended motion. So thank you.
Thank you, David. I will say that on the amended motion, David Rue did vote against it. Everybody else did vote for the amended motion. Or I should say David Rue voted against the amendment, but then, everybody voted for the motion as amended. So yes, you're correct, David. Any further public comment on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, any board discussion on the motion on the floor? Yes, Philip.
Yes, on David's point, I'm wondering if this is really more a letter praising Council Member Rue, or more of a letter, wondering why other council members weren't, on the ball.
Well, my intention in agendizing this was more of just a thank you for David for being the only one out of all those council members to actually stand up and at least try to fight back. He he was basically shut out, and he was one of the co-authors.
And so maybe the letter should be to the council praising council member Rue, but also wondering why there wasn't, other people didn't, take the same position.
Okay. Is that a motion to amend that you'd like to put forward?
It's more of a question rather than because I wasn't there, and this is the first time hearing about it.
Yeah, in answer to your question, I would say we have to remember that right now that Krikorian's committee, the Budget Finance Committee, is in the process of looking. One of the things they're going to look at is our funding for next year. So I don't know that we need to be poking that bear too much at this point, but I think just a little note from all I'm trying to get is just a little note over to David Rue.
Okay, well, I'm not objecting. I'm just trying to understand what our purpose is in bringing this up.
Ronnie, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with you, Rachel. I think if you're interested in going down that road, maybe do a CIS or something. But we should send letters for positive things, and pay attention to the politics of what's going on, so that we don't end up in somebody's disfavor. If they know what happened, they were there, So, and I'm sure he's taken a lot of criticism for it already. So I think the letter should just praise David Ryu. I think that's the gist of it all. And plus, if you put that in the letter, that's going to take away from the praise you're giving to David too.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that clarification.
Okay.
Okay. Any further board comment on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, I'll call the roll. Ronnie Reese?
Ronnie Reese, yes.
Laura Morrison?
Yes.
Keandra Kyler Dodds?
Yes.
Philip Armstrong?
Yes, sounds like a great idea.
Alex Frazier?
Yes.
Uber Santa Cruz?
Abstain?
David Horan?
Yes.
And I will vote in the affirmative. Would the secretary please?
701.
701. Thank you. Motion passes. It'll be a very simple letter. I'm not going to get too wordy about it with it. Okay, so the main three ring circus. The center ring is now up. 4D, recommendations/ideas on how the RVNC can best serve our stakeholders' needs during the ongoing COVID-19 public health emergency, and how next year's budget can be reflective of those needs. I do need to preface a little bit before we get into this. As you know, I mentioned the motion as amended from City Council with the whole idea of encumbered funds. We are still trying, the neighborhood presidents that I've been in touch with, we did have a president's roundtable Friday night, which I chaired, and there is some ambiguity as to what does encumbered funds actually mean. I have been asked to craft a letter that neighborhood council presidents can sign on, titles for identification purposes only kind of deal. Basically putting out there what we think that it could mean. And the idea is that encumbered funds in the discussion that we had has the meaning of we voted on it, we and passed it to do something with a certain amount of money. We created a board action certificate, a BAC, which is the formal paperwork that backs up that vote. And then the third step in that would be to actually submit it to the city clerk's office through our funding rep, and that would be the official notification of the neighborhood council encumbering those funds. So until we get other clarification where that is maybe not exactly quite right, I'd like to proceed with our deliberations with that in mind, if we could. So that's really the only preface I think I have for this. Let's see. Ronnie, your hand went up first.
There's a couple things that are in old business. Should I wait on those? Or can I bring it up now?
If it's relevant to item D.
All right. I'm not going to belabor this point, but due to the incompetency of our former treasurer, there's a few things that we don't know what happened. First of all, we approved some funding to go to Meals on Wheels, and I don't know that that was ever even submitted to the city. If we look in the minutes, though, you'll be able to find that. And the other, which is old business that I'm concerned about, are those banners. We need to move on that as soon as we can and see what's available. And frankly, I don't know anything about it. Jeff knows a little bit about it. That's our the treasurer before Jason. And so I've had some conversation with Carmen in regard to this, but I think this is something we need to concentrate on and see what we can do, see if there's any places available, because this is extreme outreach. I mean, those banners are very valuable out there on the streets where people can see them. A lot of people have found our meetings because of those banners. So it's something the outreach committee is going to focus on, and the financial committee should also focus on this, and together we can collaborate on it. But we need all the information first. So anybody that knows anything about it, I'd ask them to come forward in regard to that. So those are the two items of former old business. And in regard to what we're doing now, I left a message with Alex and something we can talk about later, but our outreach that we're going to do to some of the small businesses in our area is something we need to focus on. Notably, the Mexican Village, which is a restaurant. It's owned by a former board member. And there's some laundromats too that I just spoke to some people, but I think this is something we should focus on. So another thing that I spoke with the stakeholder about is our collaboration with nonprofits at St. Anne's, which is something that I can look into.
Okay.
And then any actions that will be able to help in regard to tenants is something that Hoover has considerable knowledge about. So I'm going to listen to what he has to say when he wants to venture forth to say anything. And I think that's about it. Thank you.
Just so everybody knows, my best guess is we have somewhere around $20,000 that we need to encumber by the end of June. So David Rockello.
Yes, Rachel, thank you. With your president's group, have you asked for any further definition of the word encumbered from City Council? They made a motion without, further defining what encumbered means, and that's what I have, the problem with the Krikorian motion. And is this president's group that you're chairing, are they together on asking for, in a formal way, what this all means?
A number of them have asked. I actually asked our funding rep, did not get a satisfactory answer. It was discussed on, should we ask them for a definition? And we decided that as a group that it was best to tell them what we thought it was. And that's the impetus for the letter, and as I described with those 3 steps, so that let them react to us telling them what we think it is.
So if we, this is Uber, can I read a definition that I just found? It says encumbrance. An encumbrance is a restriction on how an organization spends money. Governments use encumbrances to avoid overspending. Encumbrance accounting reserves money committed to pay contracts or purchase orders, reducing the amount in appropriations. I'm not sure if that's the definition that we're using.
That's pretty close to what the presidents have talked about as far as how we interpret that the encumbrance. Okay.
Rachel?
Yes, Carmen.
I did the star 9. I don't think that works for me.
Okay.
But I do want a public comment on old business as well.
No, please go ahead. We're in free form right now. Don't worry. Say what you got to say.
Okay. Under the old business, I want to back what Ronnie, mentioned regarding the banners. I think you're aware of the, you probably have all the files in the office with all the vendors and the street lighting department and the process of it. I sort of urge the board to really get involved. I know I have not seen very many standing committee meetings other than your land use and the outreach committee. But I just want to enforce that every board member and every standing committee has the responsibility of outreach. And I haven't seen that, or at least I haven't seen any agendas. I haven't seen any meetings from the other standing committees. And I understand by our bylaws, your standing committees, if they don't meet within the quarter, there's, I don't know, either they become null and void, or I don't have the bylaws in front of me. But I just want to stress how important it is for every new board member for the past year and a half that they need to be really involved in our community centers, our schools, our churches. Go out there, introduce yourselves. They know me. They don't know you as board members. They want to meet you. If you go and try to get their yearly planner for your community centers, they'll be glad to sit with you. You'll be able to see what kind of activities they have during the year, what the neighborhood council could probably participate with. You could go to your churches, the congregational church. There's such a good source of outreach that, they have, they're just great in every community, not just in Rampart. I see more of the Wilshire Korea Center group there with, sponsoring some of their activities, and I don't see Rampart there at all. So again, I'm just emphasizing to all the board members that are online how important that your one and foremost role as a board member is outreach. And again, I haven't seen it. Neither has the community. Even right now, our just local stores, our Vons, our Ralphs, our schools, our centers, recreation centers, no one's doing any outreach. So, one, the banners, if we're going to be lazy about it, then at least get the banners up and spend the money that way. The Meals on Wheels, they've been trying to, get some kind of funding prior to, again, the emergency of the coronavirus. And just remember that when you're donating, I would strongly recommend that you, fund, at least $5,000, because they're not going to have their annual fundraise. The last time they were funded was 2 years ago. And they're not having their fundraising season this year because, Normally they go to the beach, they do the walkathon to raise money. They're not doing that this year. And when it comes to delivering meals, we need to take in consideration everything that's involved with that one meal. And that starts out with just simply the biodegradable trays that they need, the gas, the refrigeration on the trucks, the vans, or whatever they have, to deliver and for those meals. It takes a lot. It's not just the meal. And right now, they are working so hard because they had to take over the senior centers, the people that would go to the senior centers and have their meals there because the senior centers are closed. Now they're delivering meals.
Carmen, I'm going to have to ask you to wrap it up.
Okay. So just again, backing up to what Ronnie, under old business, with the banners, the Meals on Wheels, and I'm glad Uber is now a board member, and I would definitely suggest, maybe he would get involved in the community with tenant rights and have workshops within Rampart, not outside of Rampart, when people ask for any type of funding.
Great, thank you, Carmen. Ronnie, the banners, you and I have talked about that. Whatever you want to do to make that happen, let's do that. As far as Meals on Wheels, we have supported them in the past. I'm not sure what the status of their last MPG was. I know we had passed something at one point in the last year, I guess. So we will definitely look into that, and let's keep that in mind as well for the future as well. Ronnie, I had asked you to take a look at the outreach plan that we had all discussed and voted on prior to C19, and to see how items on that particular list could be, like I said, it's outreach operations that we already voted on, and how that could be utilized now that we're in C19. Did you have any thoughts in looking at that plan?
Well, it's basically the structure of the organization, and I thank Keandra for taking the lead on that. So we need to integrate the new board members into that. There's nothing specific in terms of a specific activity, except different board members would participate in different types of outreach. So I think that we can look at it specifically now. And for example, I could assign somebody to look into the Meals on Wheels. Just for example, I have the name and the phone number of the person that we had contacted just to find out whether they'd ever gotten the money, that kind of thing. So we're really at still at the organizational state in terms of we've defined what we're doing and what we're going to do, but not specifically for any certain operation.
Okay.
So that's something I'm going to integrate the other board members into this, and I'll be calling them probably this week.
Keandra, do you have any thoughts on that?
No, kind of the same. I can take a look at the list again and try and see what else what other actionable things we have from the list. A lot of it was a framework and like bigger picture goals, and also kind of looking at how do we monitor impact, or like, but yeah, I can work with Ronnie on that.
Okay. Yes, Philip.
I just wanted to remind the board that one of the reasons that we developed the outreach plan in the first place is because we wanted to get a better understanding of the community's needs And so front and center is the needs assessment. And it seems like COVID-19 presents a very, like sort of an opportunity to, in other words, like a kind of like a segue into trying to assess what the community's needs are, because now we have, a pandemic or, crisis that makes doing the needs assessment has not been a high priority. And it seems like now it's a higher priority to kind of try to, get our heads around what it is that, with all the stresses that this is putting on the community, what the priorities are that we have the capacity to, or could bring more capacity to address.
Very good.
So I think that's a good
I can give you an assessment from just this building.
Hey, I'm gonna have to ask everybody to stick a pin in it for just a second, and I'm gonna recess this meeting so we could take care of one little piece of business that's on the special agenda that was scheduled for 7:30. So I'm recessing this meeting, and I'm calling to order the special general board meeting for Sunday, May 10th, 2020. I've called to order. Welcoming remarks, welcome. Roll call. We already know that we're here. Is there, I have to, because this is basically a meeting inside of a meeting, I do have to say, is there any public comment on non-agenda items? Seeing none. Item 4A is old business, none. New business B, appoint treasurer Keandra Kyler Dodds as first bank card holder. In my discussions with, I sent over to our funding rep at city clerk's office Ronnie's paperwork to become the second card holder, even though it didn't have a treasurer's signature on it. I tried to see if I could get that through. The response back was that, and I thought it was kind of automatic that when you became a treasurer that you kind of automatically became the first card holder, but that is not true.
No.
We actually have to vote on that. So that's why that came in, that information came in after I put out the agenda for the main meeting for today. So if I could, I will entertain a motion to appoint Treasurer Keandra Kyler Dodds as first card holder. Yes, vote.
So move.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right.
Ronnie Reese. Yeah.
So I got Philip moved, Ronnie seconded. Is there public comment on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, any board discussion on the motion on the floor? Yes, Ronnie.
Yeah. So now that Keandra is officially the treasurer, she can sign that paperwork, because I handed it in too. I handed it in like a month ago, and they said the same thing.
No, I know.
So that can go in, and I'll be the second card holder. And I'd just like to encourage this body, this Rampart Village Neighborhood Council, to be a part of this committee, of the financial committee that Keandra is going to need to back her up, because we need other people involved to help, and we also need other people involved for oversight to make sure what just happened with our former treasurer doesn't happen again.
Okay.
And that'd be all I have to say.
Thank you. Just be aware we can't have too many we can only have 3 board members on the committee at any given time.
Right, but they can always ask to see records.
Well, of course. So, any other board member comment on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, this is a financial matter. Ronnie Reese, how do you vote?
Ronnie Reese, yes.
Laura Morrison,
Yes.
Keandra Kyler Dodds,
Yes.
Philip Armstrong,
Philip Armstrong, yes.
Alex Frazier,
Alex Frazier, yes.
Hoover Santa Cruz,
Yes.
David Huron.
Yeah.
And I, Rachel Rose Lucky, vote in the affirmative. So that passes. I will entertain a motion to adjourn the special meeting. Somebody say so moved.
So moved.
Thank you, Hoover. And I am now calling back to order the joint general board meeting, CROSN meeting. Thank you, everyone. And just so you know, that paperwork will go in, and we'll be able to get both Ronnie and Keandra bank cards, and hopefully we'll get them before before the third week in June when they become inactive. But we will. I'm more than anything making a joke. So when we recessed, you know, Philip, I think you're spot on with needs assessment. It dovetails very well into you know, the outreach efforts that we have needed to be doing for quite some time. I'm looking at a list that was generated by one of the other neighborhood council presidents. It's kind of a living document where presidents can go in and kind of mark down what their neighborhood council has been doing. And one of the things on the top of this list is the neighborhood council of Valley Village. They're spending money on 10,000 mailings to all residential stakeholders with contact points for NC, City of LA, and County Health. And I think that might be something that we should consider. For those who weren't on the board or around a couple of years ago when I pushed hard to have a Christmas card mailer, what I did find out was residentially we have a little over 10,000 units, homes. And so, and that came into, you know, to get a nice sized card out to them for Christmas, it was a little over $3,000. So just to give you an idea of the cost of that. Does anybody? I guess let's kind of do this in reverse. Does anybody have any like kind of objection to doing something like that? Yes.
I have a public comment on that.
I'll let public. Let's do public comment first, and then Philip raised his hand, and I saw Keandra. Go ahead, Carmen.
Okay. Regarding what was done, we never, well, the board requested and stakeholders wanted to see a report from you, whether it was a good thing or not, what, you know, how many people actually got added to the constant contact list. How many people then started attending meetings, if it really, you know, made any positive effect at all. And we never got a report, or at least I never heard of any report given by you regarding the outcome of, you know, the mailers like that. And I think when when it comes to using public funds, it's important. It's important to know how many people right now are in the constant contact list, and if things like that actually, events like that or projects like that actually made any difference. Because if not, I mean, why are we wasting, you know, public funds on things that are not really, you know, that's not really, you know, helping getting more people into meetings, or, you know, getting information on constant contacts.
I understand your point, and in kind of an answer to that, the purpose of that particular mailer was not necessarily for gathering information, et cetera, et cetera. That I don't know that there was a specific ask on that mailer, and it was more of a goodwill, good feeling kind of thing. Your neighborhood council was here, and we wish you happy holidays. So I don't know that it was geared for that.
Yeah, well, I think we need to be aware that public funds should be used for that purpose, not for, just entertainment. Our community is in dire need of very many other things, other than an entertainment mailer or project like that. It should have a purpose to, have our tree, of more attendance, more people concerned. If they can't come to meetings, at least they're on a constant contact and getting agendas and following up on agendas, but not, just a greeting type. It's too much money wasted for a greeting.
I appreciate what you had to say. Philip and then Keandra.
Okay, so in terms of the outreach, and again, with the needs assessment, before we decide on the particular techniques that we want to use to engage the community and to solicit input from them on what their needs are and how to solve them, a suggestion that I have is that we find someone who can work as a consultant for us and who can look at, what are the best ways of, in other words, like what are the characteristics of the community? We know some of that, but what is the, like for example, Quasi does a newsletter for the Bangladesh community. So in other words, like how are people in this community already communicating with each other, and how could we work within the existing communication mechanisms to be able to, get our message out and to be able to, bring, particularly like community leaders who, to my knowledge, we're not exactly sure who the community leaders in our community are, and who can, we can pay to set up some lines of communication that, in my understanding, we don't yet have, and that would then kind of serve as a, like a baseline for us to then be able to, determine what strategies would work best and what our ultimate, goals are. For just as an example, I know we spent a lot of money last year on getting people to come out for the elections, and and then only like 80 people voted. So we spent a lot of money per vote to get those people to come out. And if we had a more comprehensive, a comprehensive plan for how we're going to communicate with the public, that seems like it would be a good investment.
I think that maybe some consultation wouldn't be from an expert wouldn't be a bad idea. I don't know that we need to spend a whole bunch of money on something like that, but certainly to have somebody identify somebody as a consultant that can that we can get a few hours of advice from, maybe not even at once, maybe over a little bit of time, that might be prudent. We would have to formulate a plan on that, identify who that consultant might be, and if you'd like to spearhead that, that'd be great.
I was thinking more of, first of all, like figuring out what exactly it is that we need. So make up like a request for proposal or something like that, and then decide how best to implement it.
If you would like to, figure out what a request for proposal would look like, and submit a draft, we could take a look at it at our next general board meeting, which I am planning to have at our normal third Tuesday, which will be a week from this Tuesday. So if you could have something prepared by that time for us to look at, we could discuss it and possibly take a vote on it.
I'll be happy to do that. I just would like to get everybody's input for doing that. So if you could all send me whatever information that you would like to have included.
Okay.
Thank you.
Keandra?
So it's not like there's two ideas. There's one, some sort of survey to gather an understanding of people's needs during this time, people that are directly impacted by COVID-19 and just the broader community to see, how we can help. And that sounds like that'd be something we want to try and do more quickly. Even once the stay-at-home orders are lifted, people will be impacted. Like there's going to be this, a time period for people to start to recover and go back to whatever the new normal looks like. So that's kind of one piece. And then I do like your idea, Philip. I think, we do need something that I think it would be helpful to have someone who can consult and kind of walk us through it, and maybe even more than just a few hours. I mean, we really need a better way to engage with the community. And I think it's one thing to have a goal of getting more folks to come to our meeting, but it's also another thing to figure out how do we connect with them and how do we serve them. We can serve them even if they don't come to our meetings. We may find a way to be helpful, but I think, I feel like between our outreach committee, which, we've came up with a lot of good ideas, but it's kind of hard to follow through and to know the exact path to take. I think a consultant could help with us. Obviously, we would need, someone or people from this group to really work with them and be committed to that process if we're going to invest resources into that. But I would support something like that. And I want to volunteer, but now I'm doing the treasury position and I'm super swamped with work. But I think it's a really great idea and really important.
And I think your input will be very valuable.
I would also just like to suggest that maybe this is maybe we could get somebody to come in to give us a training session possibly where we could have board members and stakeholders, anybody that would like to do that. And now that we're able to do all this on Zoom, maybe that would be a workshop of some sort, kind of an idea. And we could pay somebody, a professional, to come in and give us that kind of training and answer some questions for us. Alex, I see your hand is up.
Yes, I just wanted to say on this topic that this is something that I would be interested in for future reference. If you need volunteers to work on this, feel free to reach out to me.
Alex, maybe you can get with Philip and between the two of you, maybe put together some recommendations as to, I guess really the first thing to do is identify, an outreach consultant that specializes in this kind of thing, and maybe maybe you and Philip could maybe do a three-way with that person, and interview a couple of people to find out how do they work, what kinds of information do they give, and what kind of advice and that kind of thing, so that when we meet in about 10 days, you guys could present something that has a little more leg under it. Ronnie, go ahead.
Sure.
Yeah, and before you do that, double check with the Department of Labor and Empowerment. I attempted to hire someone 5 years ago, and they said that we were not allowed to do that. So I understand that may have changed. So definitely check with Dunn to make sure that legally we can hire a marketing expert or a public relations expert before we go ahead and do it.
Rachel, can I add a comment?
Yes, Carmen.
Okay. I agreed with having, or pay a consultant, whatever, you guys are wanting to do. But most importantly is that it is your responsibility as board members to do your outreach first. You need to know your community. I know in other neighborhood councils and this one as well, you're representing, a community that you don't know anything about. You're not out there. You need to put the effort out there. So when you do get your consultant, you're going to tell them, how do we deal with this, with that? This is what's in our community. How can we do better outreach? Because this is the problems that we have. It starts with all of you first. It starts with your organization first, of knowing your community that you're representing, so you could bring someone else and you could tell them, this is our community and this is what involves in our community and this is the problems that we have and this is where we need the help. Because you're hiring somebody to do something that you guys are not willing to do other than have meetings. And you need to be out there in the community. You need to represent, you need to meet your community so you could get someone, a total stranger, to tell you how to deal with those issues.
Okay, Carmen.
Rachel, can I speak?
Thank you for that. What I would say is that, right now it's really next to near impossible for us to get out in our community the way you're talking about. And I think that's where we do need some advice on, how do we outreach to folks during social distancing and COVID-19, just in general. I don't disagree with you that we need to be out in the community. It's just, how do we do that? And I think that having an expert come in and letting us know what are best practices and how that can be effectively done, is expertise I think that we really, really need at this point. Somebody was speaking up?
Yeah, Rachel, I'm not sure how to get on Stack or how to ask for
okay.
permission.
No,
so we need to kind of work that out, because this is a problem. I would like to present documents and I can't. I don't know how. We're not allowed, number one. The last thing we need to do is also not hide. Government, generally speaking, hides. This issue of doing outreach is just like Carmen said, it's getting out there. I put on the mask, got some sanitizer, got some gloves, went out to pass out some flyers. I know exactly what's needed in the community. We need people to help with handing out the food not rent letters, to be sure that they turn those into the landlords, things like that. And with regards to like the Meals on Wheels, they have a huge message. I mean, everything that's going on is exponentially outpacing the resources that we have. So there are extreme needs. A month ago, we were tasked on trying to deal with the people that are houseless and the elderly. That's in process. We began that process, and I think we need to continue that one, because we were there. We talked about getting voter registration forms, about reaching out. We talked about talking to the people that were being sent as emergency cases by Mitchell Farrell. We talked about the Department of Housing directly, the Department of Aging directly. So we have a direction. We know where to go. We don't need a consultant, but we certainly need to get out there. And I think that the basics are, we need maybe safety training on how to not catch COVID. That I would agree 100% on. But what we need is live outreach. I've been in touch with Leslie Esse from Patch. And Leslie, she asked me to bring up that we can be in a coalition as Healthy LA. Healthy LA is a network of 310 advocacy groups that can tell us exactly what the needs are everywhere in the city. So there's a lot that we've already started to do. We just have to not beat around the bush, get it done. Started.
Uber, I think it'd be great if we could join the outreach committee.
I'm already there.
Hey, Rachel. Hey, Rachel, this is David. I would love to share just some of the success you and I and Nina had with our community outreach. I think it could maybe be another way to keep getting us involved if that would be okay. Could I share that?
Please go ahead.
Awesome. Yeah. So on our last meeting, and I think I'd like to recognize. I think it was Laura. You had mentioned to me a great foundation, the Breezy Foundation in Rampart Village, which provides all of these great resources to at-risk youth in our community. And I've reached out to them, basically just offering whatever we could possibly do during COVID. We would love to, and heard back pretty soon from Roxy Bartlett over at Breezy Foundation, who expressed very clearly that their primary concern was feeding their community. They have a drop and go program, a grab and go program, and the need has surpassed now 125 families. They have even partnered with LA Food Bank, and they're serving bagged meals every day for high school youth, right here in Rampart Village. So, Rachel, you were great, and we got in contact with Nina, Womack, and Roxy just followed up with me last week and said, thanks for putting us in touch with Nina, and we're gonna, I think, start to be able to get food to those folks. And one way that I felt like, first, I think that would be a great a need to address in the community. And personally, I am a huge fan of all the farmers markets, all around LA. And a few weeks ago, when COVID was really first hitting, I reached out to the Torrance Farmers Market that I go to a lot and asked if any of the farmers who come to the market, who are definitely hurting during this time, who don't sell a lot of their leftover produce or whatever they're selling at the market, is there a way that we can buy up a lot of the produce that those family farmers don't sell, and then get that to local food banks? So Torrance Farmers Market was awesome, and we worked together. Talked with Rancho Santa Cecilia, which is a farm up in Santa Barbara, a citrus farm, and bought all of the leftover produce they had, about $500, raised money on Venmo really quickly through Instagram, bought up all their produce, and then connected with Food Finders, which is a 501 nonprofit that just finds food banks and donation centers in your area. So, a great way to kind of help farmers who are struggling during this time, but then really, I think, serve an immediate impact in Rampart Village. And then just the final point I'd like to make is, the Ronald McDonald Southern California house. It's right off Virgil and Fountain. So I think, maybe technically in East Hollywood, but just, very, very much in our community. And they just do a lot of great work. I mean, a lot of you know that I work for McDonald's, so would not, of course, want any kind of conflict of interest by any means, but it's still just, honestly a great organization. I've done a ton of volunteer work with them, and they are certainly serving families in need during this time. So just, wanted to make that pitch, a couple ideas. So thanks for listening to that.
David, thank you so much. On the last point, I would ask if you could maybe put together a bullet point of what Ronald McDonald House what we could tap into for our community. I know I'm personally unclear as to exactly what the resources that would be available to us. Is that something you could do?
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll definitely follow up with more info on that. Thanks, Rachel.
Okay, and then maybe we can include that in our meeting in 10 days.
Sounds good.
And maybe get out a list and say, okay, this, let's vote on this. Let's do, let's vote to do this. Let's vote to do that.
Sure thing. I'd love that. Thanks.
Yeah, and you are our business rep. We do know that especially small businesses are hurting right now. It would be, as part of our outreach effort, it would be awesome to identify, especially the mom and pops restaurants that are going to start to come back online, as well as other businesses. Not sure exactly where I'm going with that, but you're absolutely 100% authorized as our business rep to to reach out to the businesses within our boundaries and introduce yourself, introduce the neighborhood council. You are that rep. You are that rep for us. Go wild.
Great. No, I think, to Carmen's point, a great chance to just reach out to local business owners, stakeholders in the community, and see if what kind of need there is. Would be happy to kind of start making those calls.
Okay, awesome. Ronnie put his hand up.
In regard to that, where are we at on our business cards? Because I put in an order a couple months ago, and we got some new board members. So do you have any idea where we're at with that?
Well, yeah, they're probably in a cage that is through the double doors on the first floor, on the bottom floor, right past the elevators. That's where the packages go. With the lockdown and everything, when I went through there the other day, I didn't see, oh shoot, I forget her name off the top of my head. The lady that usually sits at the front desk, Yolanda. I didn't see her there. And she's the one that has access to that.
But so some of them have been ordered, but
yeah, the ones that we had ordered prior to the lockdown, and then the new board members, as you know, we have a 3-month rule before they can actually get business cards with their names on it.
3 months. Well,
isn't that what we voted on?
It'd be good for David to have some business cards, though, to show he's a business rep. That's for sure. That would be helpful. Yeah.
If you want, if you want to agendize it, and we want to vote to change the rule, I mean, that's we can do that. So at our next meeting, but that is the rule at the moment.
Yeah, I remember.
So
and I think I appreciate that, but I think too, just with the way that we're communicating now, probably there won't be an opportunity to give out a card, unfortunately, for the next few months. But yeah, I would love to, in the next few months here, try to get one of those.
Okay, thanks, David. So where are we at here? Now, while David was speaking, the one thing that we are going to have come online here, hopefully sooner rather than later, is our pop-up food bank. We did double down on it at our last meeting, so we've got 8 weeks of that to look forward to, and I think that will be a fantastic outreach tool. Maybe at our board meeting in 10 days, maybe we should agendize some money for some nice what we call in the TV and film industry leave behinds, or some sort of card with some information about COVID-19, et cetera, but also how to join our email list, when our meetings are, that kind of thing that we can put in the bag. I don't know that we need to spend a whole lot of money on that, but we could certainly use that as a way to do outreach. Yes, Laura.
This is an example of the masks that our neighbor is making. I don't know if people can see it.
That's a good looking mask.
Yeah, she's gotten more sophisticated as she's made them. She's got little metal nose things here and this elastic. So, and she's willing to sell them to the Rampart Village Neighborhood Council for $10 a piece. And we could select the material, the base material.
I guess one of the first questions would be, how many could she make at a time? Would it be you know, a couple of hundred over a week.
We can find out. She's
Yeah.
made quite a few already.
Okay.
Yeah, Rachel, can we backtrack a minute on
Absolutely.
yeah, thank you for letting me speak, but you know, I'm really excited about the food bank in its beginning. I would please, if you allow me to do this, I'll handle it. If you can create a press release for me, I'll be sure it's out in the local tiny papers, community papers, and I can be sure at least one of the networks can come and see.
That would be awesome. As soon as right now what we're waiting on right now is the admonishment to get lifted from the city clerk's office. I was hoping to get word last week after I submitted the VACs for the outstanding NERs, which I did, you know, right away after our Monday meeting. But I have not gotten official word yet. And so, like I said, I will follow up tomorrow. You know, that will basically mean it's a week since the was submitted. So hopefully a check will go out, you know, I hope next week. You know, it's all about the city clerk's office at this point. And once that check goes out, then we can you know, start talking about those kinds of things. And yes, you know, we'll definitely put out a press release and the whole 9 yards. We'd love to work with you on that.
Thank you.
Rachel, I want to make a comment on Laura's comment.
Yes, Carmen.
To check with the city clerk regarding the mask, because I don't think they're going to approve like a next door neighbor mask. If you remember any financial, you know, we need to get their tax ID, we need to get this, we need to get that, you know, so check with the city clerk if we could, you know, like have one of our neighbors make masks and then purchase from them. I don't think they're going to approve it. Yeah, I think it has to fall under a business.
No, I appreciate you watching our backs on that. Laura, let's you and I discuss offline about what that could look like.
Okay.
And then we can make if we think we'd like to, we can make a recommendation to the board in 10 days.
Rachel, an additional concern on that, and that's branding. You know, I mean, I would love to have RVNC on a t-shirt, on the shorts, on a hat, something. I don't know that I want it on the COVID mask, you know, because I'm not sure that I want it on the COVID mask.
All right.
Yeah.
I get it. And we had spoken, I guess, at the last meeting about you know, putting something on the mask. You know, I think that we could at least, you know, just over by the ear on one side, you know, going vertically.
With a tiny disclaimer, we are not responsible if you die of COVID, right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
You might as well just get a bottle of sanitizers and put your logo on the
There
bottle
you
of
go.
sanitizer.
Yeah.
Well, that is
That's an idea. That's a great idea.
Let's add sanitizer to the list again. You know, with the pop-up food banks, that, you know, that's a great opportunity to. I really think that the pop-up food bank is going to be a great opportunity for us. I think Ronnie had his hand up, and then David Rackella.
Yeah, in the discussions we've had in the past with the mask, I think that the branding is an excellent idea, because everybody's going to have to wear a mask, and there it is right in your face, and it can be just fairly discreet. And the other thing that we had talked about is that there's a lot of masks available now through the city, according to the mayor. I have several million, according to him, I think. And so if it's not something that we can brand, then we may not want to purchase it. I mean, I think that's what we need to look at. And in that regard, I talked to the printer, and there is a decal type of, or laundry tag type of thing that you maybe we could put on something like that. So I'm looking into that. He's going to get me some samples. But I think it is a good opportunity to brand the sanitation liquid, though, is another excellent idea, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
David Rockello. And then I see Keandra.
Yes. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, the sanitizer branding and the COVID mask. COVID masks are going to be the new fashion. It's where everybody looks when they look you in the eye. And this is a perfect opportunity for branding. I know that, that we shouldn't be taking advantage of commercially, but this is how we get our name out there and for people to know who the RVNC is. So please go forward with this idea. And it's your opportunity to get known. Thank you.
Thank you. Keandra, and then Laura just put up her hand.
I was just going to encourage us to get Matt. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I was going to, encourage us to move forward with the mask idea, especially because more and more places are limiting your ability to come in without a mask. Even public transit now, Metro, you can't ride the bus or train without a mask. And I think there's a real need for people to just make sure they have access. A lot of people do have masks, but maybe they have one and it's, they haven't been able to either wash it or it will help to have it. So I think, branding is one thing, and I'm okay with like having a small branding on the side. But if we're talking about serving the needs, I think that's definitely a big need, because just to be able to do, your essential anything, you need a mask these days.
Yeah, just to be clear, I'm not opposed to the mask. I'm opposed to the brand on the mask.
Okay. Let's see. Laura, go ahead. And then I saw Philip put up his hand.
I want to speak to the same thing that Chandra was saying. And I've noticed that there are people coming into the supermarket who, yes, they have something on, but it's not a real face mask. And one thing that we could do as a point of outreach would be to offer face masks to any person who was trying to shop who didn't have something that was really of good quality.
But one of my problems is $10 a pop is kind of expensive. I do believe that we should support our local artists and whatnot. But as I showed in the last meeting, there are companies out there that we can get. I think that one of the better ones that had the bio-disinfectant cloth on the inside, it was like $4 a pop for that. Let's see, Philip, I think you were next, right?
Yes, and so one of the things that we were talking about is that we want the masks to last for a while, and we don't want them to be. And so the way to address that would be to include washing instructions, whether it's like hand wash or machine wash, and that the way the masks are made would support them being able to be washed in some manner to explain.
Okay, thank you, Philip. And I personally don't disagree with that. Keandra?
Keandra, I think you're muted.
No, she's not. Are you muted?
No, I can't.
Yeah, I didn't hear her either.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
There you
I was just saying I have to go soon. That's all.
I'm sorry, say that again?
I have to leave soon. I have to leave the meeting soon.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if I leave, if we'll still have form, so that's why I'm just checking.
Yeah, I don't know that we're going to be doing any voting, moving forward tonight.
Okay.
What was I thinking? I don't know if you noticed in my emails to y'all, that we do have 2 NPGs in right now. One is from Bright Star Schools. They're a charter school located just outside of our boundaries, next to Lafayette Park. And they've been also looking at the which was the Goodwill Church on First, right across the street from Virgil Middle School. They, in talking to them, I did have a conversation with them, and I impressed upon them that for us to consider an NPG. We have kind of an informal kind of thing, precedent set up that, MPGs that benefit directly to our stakeholders get priority. And so what they're looking at, and they do have children from Rampart Village, from within our boundaries, they can earmark those. And that go to their school. And they're requesting money for Chromebooks because of the learning at home. So there's that one, and then the other one was it just came in, and now I can't remember what it was. I'll let Ronnie go.
The training.
Pull this up. Huh?
Yeah. Are they nonprofits?
Yes.
Okay.
They do have nonprofit educational status. It's not a 501c3. It's something else. It's in the paperwork.
Okay.
But it is nonprofit status. The other one is. Let's see, BFG, MPGs.
Rachel, was that the PESA?
PESA, yes, exactly. This one is PESA stands for Parents, Educators, Teachers, and Students. They have what is called a Hero Project, and there was a bunch of information on that project. They are requesting a total of $5,000. And I sent you all a link to the supporting documentation earlier today. Go ahead and review that. I think, yes, Philip.
So both of those, I went through the supporting documents, and both of them, in my estimation, were missing pieces that it said were included, like the Bright Star Schools, the Rice Koyang. Some of the items weren't filled out, and it said there was going to be an attachment, but I could not find the attachment. And on the PISA one, it refers to a letter from a judge, and I could not find the letter. And also the way they describe the project is it seemed disturbing to me. It says that we're going to teach youth not to speak pejoratively about the race that's responsible for COVID-19. Race that's responsible for COVID-19. So that is kind of a oxymoron. And then further down it says that the heroes they're like writing a letter explaining why they're a hero, and then they're getting a certificate for being a hero. And it just doesn't. It's just not a very good explanation to me. There must be more to it than that.
I understand. I'm not a proponent nor an opponent. I'm just presenting the information. As far as the Bright Star Schools, unlike the PESA, the supporting documentation is a number of different documents which are in the folder.
Right, but which one has the missing information for the application? Because I can't find it.
What missing information are you talking about?
Okay, so in there, in the Bright Star application, let me find it again.
Because what I'm seeing is they've submitted their articles of incorporation, the IRS determination letter for their nonprofit status.
Okay, but in the application itself, section 2, project description 4 and 5 are not filled out, and then it says further down.
Oh, they are filled out. I'm looking at it now. Unless
you're looking at Bright Star.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Bright Star Schools is submitting this grant on behalf of one of its schools, Rising. I can't pronounce that name. High school. The purpose.
Okay. It's not on the copy that I have.
Really? I only have the one copy, so I'm not sure why. Hold on, I'm looking in the Google Drive. In the meantime, does anybody else have any ideas of what we can be doing?
Rachel, I just have a question. When you're talking about the MPG, does that fall under future items? Because it's not on the agenda. So do those fall under future items? And
no,
it should be on. It should be on the agenda, the request for MPGs, their name, where they're located, the amount of money, because as a stakeholder right now, I can't follow what you have because I don't have the paperwork that your board members are looking at.
Okay, a couple of things to understand. On the agenda in the box of all of the ADA compliant stuff, there is a line in there with a link to what is called supporting documentation. That is viewable. That link is viewable by the public as well as
Rachel, only one page is viewable. There's something wrong with the link.
Hold on. Only one page is viewable?
Yeah, the agenda, only one page was viewable and parcel. I have to double print it, and as it is, there was something missing there. But anyway, you can share screen. Remember, you can share the screen.
Yeah, but Carmen's calling on the phone. She can't see.
Oh wow.
But we're not actually discussing approving any NPGs today. All we're discussing is what are we doing going forward, in light of what's going on, and into next year, into the next fiscal year. David, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Rachel. May 21st is Red Nose Day. So maybe we could figure out a way to do something joining in with the whole Red Nose campaign.
Carmen, just so you know, David Rockello has a big red nose on his face.
Yes.
Yeah, like Rudolph.
So seriously, it's a great charity, and it might be a way to do something that connects to the outside world. That the larger, getting Rampart known as the first that did something with the Red Nose campaign. I don't know. Just an idea. Just putting it out there.
Can you send me an email?
Yeah, I'll send you an email.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Let's see here. let me find my agenda. Where's the agenda? So, Over, you're saying that
On our website, website, not the link that you sent out to us. I went to the website itself.
Okay.
RVNC.org website. We had an issue there. Yeah.
I might have. Did I screw it up? Hold on. Supporting documentation. Yeah, when you click on that, you get 3 folders, right? Hoover?
Yeah.
You get 3 folders, right? When you click on that link.
Yeah, I had an issue, but I'm not sure if it was just me.
Oh.
But I could barely get the agenda there.
And then double click on the folder that says 05.10.2020 joint general board, and that'll give you all the documents that are inside, all the folders inside. Okay. I guess, hang on just a second here. I do want to run down and, just give you guys an idea of some of the things other neighborhood councils are doing. Echo Park Neighborhood Council has started a program for monitoring social media posts to address misinformation, especially involving C19. Arts District Little Tokyo is sending out a survey to identify needs, so we wouldn't be the only ones doing that. And they're also working on their newsletter. Pacoima, as president, she writes, as president, I've contacted every board member to see how they're doing individually. She also writes, we have a call to our local dentists asking for masks. This is actually kind of dated a little bit, so take it with a grain of salt. Let's see, Echo Park again. We are putting together a teleconference for board members and stakeholders with the Department of Public Health, giving a presentation and Q&A session regarding C19. Brentwood Community Council, Social Media Patrol, again, in an effort to stem anxiety and antagonistic interactions within the community. We have board members patrolling Nextdoor, Facebook, and Instagram to ensure that posts which do not contain references to credible coronavirus resources, you get the idea. PTAs, they have begun a closed group chat among school parents in their public schools for shared information on indoor activities and related homeschool issues. Local businesses, this one is for David H. We posted and updated a list of local businesses that are open and ready to provide delivery services. We also push business offers across all social media platforms. We've quote unquote followed every Brentwood business, and I guess followed like on social media, every Brentwood business that has delivery, and we cross-post all their information, menus, etc. It has allowed at least 2 restaurants to continue staffing at 50% due to volume responses. So that's a good thing.
Hey, Rachel, yeah. I think that actually might be more geared for, this is David, but I think that might be geared more for Alex Frazier, who I think is leading with our business outreach. I think I'm more focused on the community outreach.
I got that mixed up. I'm sorry, Alex. That's
actually... No problem. and I kind of rolled with it too, so I hope I didn't cause any confusion, but no, just wanted to make sure we cleared that up.
No, absolutely.
As a stakeholder, I was confused because I don't know the board members, and I like, well, David, I thought you're the community organization rep. I was confused
Yeah. Sorry, didn't mean to.
And just being new, I wasn't sure how much kind of blending or crossover there is, but I'm glad I just double checked and yeah, I just wanted to be sure. So no, Alex, I'm sure will be great taking the charge there.
All my fault. All my fault. There's another list here. We still have a couple minutes. Let's see. So I think here's something that. Here's a list of some of the things that other neighborhood councils have spent money on. And again, if we don't encumber, we lose it. And it's still unsure whether or not the previous from earlier, I guess from last year, the city council approved us rolling over 10,000 of unencumbered funds just as a matter of course. But now with this new motion, there is some ambiguity as to whether or not the encumberment part, is part of that 10,000 or not. We'll get clarification. But and this is actually the list I read off on Wednesday. Let's see, Wilshire Center, Koreatown, $500 for World Harvest Food Bank. They put money towards gloves and masks. And I know we've talked about masks. We haven't talked about gloves.
We talked about a care package.
Yep. I know that a lot of neighborhood councils are ramping up care packages, and
yeah,
I think that's pretty awesome.
Rachel, I want to make a comment regarding the MPGs that you just mentioned. I would probably request that board members focus on the emergency of the COVID. And again, I really want to emphasize, the work that Meals on Wheels does. And, please fund them. The schools that you just mentioned, Bright Start, they're closed anyway. They could be funded in the next year's sub-budget. Also, PESA or PISA Education Hero Project, they're not able to do anything anyway right now. But you should probably ask them to come back with the next year's budget. And but right now, with the food bank, with feeding, the food delivery and all, that's important right now. And that should take precedence with in the banners. That should take precedence with the money that right now, part of the 20,000 that you think there still is. And then the rest of the MPGs where it comes to supporting schools or school programs, that could be, shortly around summer when they're, who knows when they're going to open up now.
Okay, thank you.
It's supposed to open in July.
Something for us to think about, definitely, as we move forward. Yes, Philip.
Just a clarification. When I looked at the agendas for tonight's meeting, I was thinking this was going to be a very short meeting. I'm just wondering, is there something else that we need to accomplish today, or can we, continue some of this the next time?
Well, yeah, of course. This is going to be an ongoing conversation, for the next year, and of course, outreach in general is, that's all of our jobs, and that's definitely an ongoing conversation. But the thing that we need to be cognizant of, and it's amazing how quickly time flies by. We've got money in the bank. We need to get it out to our community. There's no doubt about that. We need to, one of David Rue's arguments on Wednesday was that, instead of, having us encumber and rush to the deadline, that just roll it over so that we can, deliberate and really think about, what we're doing here. But Krikorian, he stomped on that. So, we are facing a deadline. If we don't use it, we lose it. So, that's why this meeting was important, for us to, get ideas out on the table so that, between now and our next general board meeting, I'm hoping that I start getting emails from you people, all of you, You know, what do you want on the agenda? What do you want us to spend money on? And we're going to need those into me so I can create the agenda, I would say, by the end of the day on Friday. You know, and this is everybody's responsibility.
Okay, but I mean, I wasn't even sure that we were having a meeting today, and I didn't know when we were supposed to get the agenda items in, and so it's.
Well, we're discussing it now.
Right, and I'm also just kind of confused about what it is we're trying to get done today that absolutely needs to be done today.
Voting wise, nothing.
Okay.
You know, we can't come together as a group without holding an official meeting. Otherwise, we're in violation of the Brown Act.
Right.
This was a discussion that we absolutely needed to have happen. And that's why the agenda item is pretty broad in scope.
Okay.
That help?
Yes, so I just have a couple of questions. So when is our next meeting? When do we need to get the agenda items in for that meeting? And also, are there going to be notes? You know, is somebody going to do minutes from tonight's meeting?
Yes.
Well,
Okay.
whatever Laura has been able to do, as well as this meeting is being recorded.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
And I will upload it
Okay.
for record.
Rachel, I have one more question since we're talking about what needs to be spent in such a short time. Is there any clarity regarding the rental lease? Is RVNC up to date? Is any rent due?
Good question.
And also, would someone try and see if St. Anne will sort of give you forgiveness for the 2-3 months that you can't meet, the meeting room or the actual office?
Okay.
See if maybe they don't charge the full monthly. But basically, where are we? With the lease?
I got you. I've been straightening all that out over the last week or so. It did come to my attention that individual invoices for each month needed to be submitted to the funding rep. I have submitted all of them up and through this month. Actually, I submitted June's as well, next month's as well. Obviously, they can't pay on something that hasn't happened yet, but they have the invoice that's primed to go. Excuse me. And basically, we are in arrears, and they have been real nice not to charge us any extra money on that. They haven't been paid rent since this time last year. So I have submitted all invoices for our rent and our room rental for our general board meetings. We are not being charged for the classroom for March, April, May, and June. We're not using it. They realize that, and they're fine with it. We do need to pay on the office, whether or not we're there or not. It's our office. It's where we keep our stuff. So we're saving $300 a month there, and that is all stuff that I've been able to straighten up in the last week from a financial standpoint. Yes, Ronnie, you have your hand up.
Yeah, check that out, and I don't know. I'd be up for trying to get forgiveness if we could on the months when, I mean, there's nobody up there. But the other thing is addressing what Philip had talked about. One of our big problems is to not violate the Brown Act. And by having us all here together, or those that we can get, and speaking for as long as we can get a lot done. But we can't get a lot done by phone calling because there's going to be serial meetings going on and stuff like that. So that's why we're having this meeting, and it may be a little longer, and there may be other meetings that are going to be a little longer too, because there's a lot to get done, and we can't discuss it really individually because there might end up being a serial meeting.
Yeah, we do have to be careful.
Well, I want to add to that as well, because the agendas, even though they're special meetings, they still they should still meet the the Roberts rules and the Brown Act, and they should be posted 72. Not 72. Is it 72 or 24?
Yes, it's
I
72.
know, right, and we're not getting those agendas on time as a stakeholder, and I know that you can't post them because, you know, everything is closed. So at least be a little more plan ahead, you know, to meet the required time of posting through constant contact. Because I'm like Phil, I was a little confused with the two meetings, one at 7, one at 7:30, and I only got the constant contact yesterday.
I did send out constant contact on the original meeting on Thursday evening, I believe it was, 72 hours. As well as if you want to make sure to get all of the agendas, make sure to sign up on the early notification system, the ENS system. And that way, you know, whenever something's posted to done, it goes out. As well as, you know, check in on our website, and I am being a lot more cognizant of getting information up on our website as quickly as possible.
Okay.
Rachel.
Yes, Uber.
Yeah, can you please take down one item for the next agenda right now? Well, it was brought up today, doing a tenants' rights workshop during COVID, housing rights updates. I'd like to just put that on the agenda, set it for dates. I'd like to also place on the agenda live outreach, distributing tenants' rights material with the Public Safety, Housing, Transportation Committee, whoever's running that. And then lastly, I would like to also send out a Zoom how-to campaign on Facebook, Instagram, and constant contact, so we can increase people coming to our meetings.
Okay, thank you for that. If you could, first of all, the second one, Laura is our PSHT chair.
Okay.
And
Call me.
Yeah. Call
okay.
her.
Okay. All right.
And then the other two items, yeah, send me an email, please.
Okay. All right. Cool.
So I have it in writing and it's official.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. These are really hot items, and we can do them right away.
All right. David Rockello, did you have your hand up? Were you waving at me? No. Okay. All right. Anybody have anything, a burning desire at the moment? You know, I think what I'll do is this list that I read off to City Council of all the wonderful things that neighborhood councilors are spending their money on. I think I will forward that on to you guys, make that available to you. And like I said, and I'll get in touch with our other board members. You know, we really need to, you know, put a smorgasbord out on the table, and, you know, let's talk about it at the next meeting, and, you know, approve and or reject certain items, and so that, you know, going into the first part of June, also realize that starting right after June 1st, we won't be able to pay anything by check. They have not extended those deadlines at all. Also, the bank card goes inactive on June the 20th. So, you know, after June 20th, no money goes out the door. That doesn't mean we can't encumber and all of that, so that rolls over. We get all that, but I just want to make you aware that we do have these kinds of hard deadlines that, you know, affect us, you know, getting payments out between now and July the 1st, you know, the beginning of our next fiscal year. Yes, David Roscello.
Thank you, Rachel. Yeah, I'd like to suggest that we donate money to the Neighborhood Council Congress, as much as left over, so we don't have any unencumbered funds, so that, you know, it'll go to a good place. We'll have a big place in the in the program when they put out the program. It's just a good way to spend the money for the whole neighborhood council system and get the name of Rampart Village out there. So if you can put that on next month's or this month's agenda, and thank you.
Yeah, thank you, David, for bringing that up. Both David Rockello and I sit on the organizing committee. Needless to say, you know, we're not having
And Belinda.
And Belinda. And needless to say, we're not going to be meeting physically this year. But as of yesterday, we had a meeting. It was the what was it, David? It was for programming, the programming meeting, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we were talking about what a virtual Congress might look like. And you know, there seemed to be a lot of some good enthusiasm behind that. That's still going to take money to put on, et cetera, et cetera. And unlike other funds, those funds do get rolled over, quote unquote rolled over. And so if they don't, whatever funds they don't use next year, you know, the Congress the following year will have that money to use. So
yes, because it's a separate account set up by City Council.
Right. So anybody else before we wrap this up? Okay. Well, I will send out an email. Everybody here, all the board members here, as well as Carmen. We can include Carmen. The task and Mr. Rockello and Mrs. Rockello. You know, the task here between now and the end of the week is bring it on. Every and all ideas. There are no stupid ideas. There are no stupid questions. Only stupid answers. Let's bring it all to the table and we'll sort it out and we will come up with a plan of action. And and that will, you know, hopefully propel us through the summer in doing the work that we need to be doing for our community. And with that, I will, since nobody seems to be having a burning desire to speak, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Thank you for your leadership, Rachel.
Thank you, David.
Yeah, I so move.
All right, I got it.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, Rachel.
Thanks.